Hello, degenerates, and welcome back to another TV show review. This time we're going to be going over Disney's The Owl House. So this was a show that I kind of caught up kind of later on, but I did watch it a little bit as it was airing. It was particularly, I think, I want to say the last 5 episodes that I was watching when it was airing. But yeah, no, outside of that, this was one that I caught up to later on. So main premise of this one is you do have the human by the name of Lutz, which is girl riding the broom over there, and then she ends up going through this door that takes her to this enchanted magical realm where there's a giant titan that provides all the magic, but he's dead. So they're kind of feeding off his magical energy, and basically your normal fantasy world of like witches, elves, and other magical creatures all exist here. Main thing is humans do not have magic in any capacity at all. And the way you kind of tell they're human is by their ears. If they have pointy ears, they can do magic. If they're not, that means they're human. And as far as we know, she's the only human that's living here in this world. And it's basically her misadventures with Ida, which is the main witch that you see over there with the white hair, and then King, which is that little adorable animal looking thing over there, which is kind of the best way to describe it. During part of the show, she does enter the school, and that kind of becomes like a main plot point for her, is that she's kind of attending this wizard school the entire time. So if you've seen Little Witch Academia or if you've seen Harry Potter, you'll kind of be familiar with the premise of going to a wizard school and kind of learning magic there. And it's mostly just Lutz's misadventures throughout the school and the shenanigans that she gets in. So yeah, kind of the main reason why that I did end up checking this out was I did see it getting a lot of positive press and attention just from social media in general, and I decided to check it out based on that. So overall, as I did mention, those other two shows, Little Witch Academia and Harry Potter, those are going to be mostly the main comparisons I'm going to be making it to. However, there is one distinct distinction, as this is only the first season, so the story for it is not complete, whereas, Harry Potter, several different books, and then obviously Little Witch was an entire 24-episode anime, and that one completes its entire arc there. So this is 18 episodes long, but very much so. I think they're hoping to get 3 seasons. I know the second season did get confirmed that they're working on it, but I don't think it's like 100% that it's going to be fully produced, unless, of course, the response to it is good enough. Overall, I will be talking spoilers, so I'm just going to kind of give you the warning right now. I wouldn't really know a point to tell you to tune back in to not see spoilers, and nor am I going to really be able to look at the timestamp beforehand to say that. So just in case, there are going to be spoilers in here, but I'm not going to reveal any of the big story-driven things and kind of the surprise twists and turns. Though I don't really feel like there's anything that drastic in the show. I am going to be talking everything that happens in the show entirely. So if you are not interested in hearing any of that, I would say I do recommend checking out this show. Especially if you like Little Witch Academia and Harry Potter, more specifically Little Witch, I would say this is a good one to watch. It's basically kind of an American take on that, but of course with differences, which that's what I'm going to be talking about now. So overall, the cast of characters here is pretty different compared to Harry Potter and Little Witch, as in this one, for the most part, it's mostly Lutz acting with Ida and King, which, one of them's like a really old witch, and the other one is just like this fluffy little animal. So kind of like the whole thing is they're both considered really dangerous, wanted people, but King's literally just an animal. He says he's a demonic king that wants to make everybody bend to his will, but it's kind of more from an inferiority complex more than anything. And Ida is a very powerful witch, but she just kind of wants to make money selling human items, and that's really it. She just kind of keeps to herself. Very chilled and relaxed person. And, Lutz learning that she's an all-powerful witch. She really wants to learn from her just because, she grew up reading fantasy books. And one thing that's kind of interesting is that there's actually some stories that exist both in the Titan world and the human world. As, two of the characters, Lutz and Amity, kind of bond over this one story that happens to exist. So that hasn't really been explained yet, but I think we'll figure that out later on. But yeah, she basically read that type of story and has always wanted to become like an all-powerful wizard, kind of like if you just were reading like, Lord of the Rings and all that stuff, Star Wars, like you want to be in those stories, you want to be able to use the Force and stuff like that. And that's basically where that whole thing comes from there. So it does play fairly out like a normal, like, I would say American cartoon, as everything is kind of very serialized with each event. You're able to watch them in its own, and even if you didn't watch them sequentially, you wouldn't really be missing out too much. But I would compare it a lot to Gumball in a way, where Gumball, you can definitely watch any episode and you can have a fantastic time. While it's definitely not nearly as funny as that, as this one's more focused on like action and adventure. There is specific character development that does happen with all the characters throughout it, and for the most part, they all carry over and will become important down the line. The one exception is the last two episodes. That's a two-part episode, so that one you do need to watch the first one before you watch the finale for the season. Otherwise, you're going to have no idea what's going on. But for the most part, the characters are very self-explanatory. You can very figure out what they're all about and like what the current dynamics are between all the relationships very, very easily in each episode by itself. So if you did somehow watch them out of order, you could easily go back and then just like kind of throw in the pieces there without really missing too much, except for, of course, for those last two episodes. Overall, I really do like how the dynamics of all the characters are happening. Like Willow kind of like going out of just like kind of being a bully, being like the bullied character, and then like kind of going more into herself and being more comfortable with herself. That's handled very well. Lutz's growth as like learning how to do magic and how to kind of like communicate with all these people and all that stuff and learning to fit in. That's handled really nicely, just like in a regular character sense, but another thing I'll talk about as well. And then Amity, from kind of just being like the uptight prick to somebody that's like a little bit more open, they do a really good job with that too. The one character that kind of falls flat in the development department is King. So basically, he's like a spoiled, rotten brat, and they kind of paint a good picture why, because he's really small and he's really hopeless. So basically, anyone can pick on him, and no one ever really takes him seriously, like outside of like Ida and Lutz. And because of that, it's just like that's why he's sort of developed a complex like that. But something else might have happened in his past too. If there is, we haven't gotten to that part yet. And the thing is, it's like he should have learned a lot of these lessons about like not being a complete dick to everybody. And like he learns that like 3 times throughout the series. And I think it's like after the third time is when he finally learns, hey, I am no longer going to be a dick, and then it carries over. So with him, he's like the one character where that falters, and you'll get really annoyed with him on that. The thing is just like he does just balance like the cute and annoying part just well enough that there's going to be points where you're going to be like, why are you doing this? But he's still likable enough that you'll want to completely throw him under the bus. But for those certain episodes where it looks like basically he just had like a lobotomy compared to what just happened before, you'll get really angry at that. But I think by the end of it, you probably won't be too upset with him, but you will be frustrated during those episodes. The other thing too that we should talk about is if obviously, what makes animation, music, visuals, all those other things. They do a really good job kind of bringing the whole like world's visuals together. And while it definitely kind of like reeks of a lot of like modern cartoon style, like, the kind of like the thing that a lot of people criticize, like most modern cartoons looking kind of similar. This one definitely has a more distinct style out of those, but it definitely feels very much out of like the Steven Universe, like kind of school of thought of just kind of the way the characters are designed. But I would definitely say it's strayed a little bit more from that. It does have way more of a unique identity to it. Overall, the music's really nice too. I find the opening and closing songs, the OP and ED, to be very, very catchy things, and the animation for those is really nice, especially the OP. Like, there's this one part where like the broom is just kind of swimming down, like all the characters like run to catch on it, and it's super nice and fluid. Like, I definitely kind of want to study all that piece just to like see like the animation of it a little bit better. They did a really good job with that, and they do have like a lot of really fun, just like action pieces too, and a lot of really inventive things. Like, there's one part where they like make this the house walk. That's a really fun episode. There's another one where they have like their own take on like a wizard sport, so it's sort of Quidditch-ish, but the commentary they do on Quidditch is really funny too. And not to mention the sport itself is kind of neat with the way that they make the whole sport itself works. And I think that one was probably my favorite episode of all of them so far. And then also just like the way that the dynamic of the relationships work are really nice too. I would say like with like Willow and the other friends there. Unfortunately, I forget his name, but the guy's the president of the Human Club. I feel like he was definitely like the weakest out of all the side characters that they have, because basically he just does things like really, really, really just selfish overall, and yeah, it's just like it's not too interesting. Like that's like the one episode like where it's like focusing on his arc. That's kind of the point where you're like, okay, this is still a kid show at the end of the day. But overall, for a kid show, I do think like they kind of handle a lot of different topics in a very nice, responsible way. And like the one of the main things that I think the main reason why the show got so much like buzz as it did is it does handle like diversity extremely well. So Lutz herself is a bi character, and they do express that like pretty openly in like an kind of like an open discussion. But it's like I don't think they really tap into much as her as being bi in this season in particular. It's probably gonna be a little bit more later on. And then like Amity herself is a lesbian. There was a Reddit AMA with the creator herself, so if you are interested in checking that out, fortunately, I forget her name, but I'll make sure to link it in the description below, where she kind of talks a little bit more about the series and like kind of confirms and says like some things that they're doing and things that they're planning to do for the future of the series. So if you have watched it, I would recommend checking that AMA out. If you haven't, don't look at it until you see the show. So it's like throughout the show, like Amity has like a huge like crippling crush on Lutz, and it's really funny to see how that progresses. So that's done really nicely. That's done very well. And something that's really notable about this is this is the first openly gay character that they have. Well, bi, but still counts as gay. That they have in a Disney television animated series. So that's actually a really important milestone for them. Like Disney is the company that you put as passive progressive, and at worst were really anti-progressive for a lot of their period. So for them to be like so open and accepting of this show's main character to just be like a gay lead in here, also a Latina person as well, so they kind of do some nice family dynamics with that as well. It's really nice to see. Like definitely the whole way for that to be paved, what definitely did start with Steven Universe, then She-Ra pushed it on further, and this one's just kind of continuing it even further down the road as well. And I'm very, very happy to see this. Like something that one discussion I was reading it was an interview with both the creator of Steven Universe and the creator of She-Ra. So it was Rebecca Sugar and Noelle. I think it's Noelle Stevenson's her name. And basically, one of the things that they were talking about was the struggle of just getting openly like gay and non-binary characters in the show, in their shows themselves, was like one of the biggest struggles and hurdles out there. Like when you watch Steven Universe, those things don't really come into play until I think like season 2, and then of course they got more open about it the further the show went down the line. But pretty much before, they kind of had to like drip feed it until a point where it's like the studio really couldn't go against it. Like they'd kind of have to pull the plug, and I really, really do applaud all their efforts for getting that there. Like one of the things that they were very open to point out was that, you know, before these shows existed, this was just nothing that you would ever really see, specifically in children's media. And, you know, even to get like things like She-Ra there to get to that point where they were able to do it, they still had to fight like tooth and nail to get that stuff there. And the good thing is like the reception for those two series in particular has been pretty overwhelmingly positive for the most part. And like the people that are complaining like, oh, there's too much representation and all that stuff, this is the thing that you always have to remember. Before, there was zero. So the fact that there's two shows that like have this type of thing, there's probably a little bit more out there that I'm kind of forgetting off my head, but just the fact that they have those shows out there meant you went from 0 to 2, which is no matter what, like an 100 to 1,000% increase. So it's just like, you know, hey, you're just going to have to get used to seeing other types of people out there in your media. There's nothing wrong with that. It's finally time that other people really get to see themselves and just be more comfortable with who they are. And I'm all here, and I'm very glad to see it happen. And I'm definitely glad to give my support for the show overall for just being able to kind of advance that too. But yeah, no, outside the diversity talk and all that other stuff, the adventures that she gets on is really fun. She is a very engaging character to tag along with. Ida's a really, really fun character, and then her sister Lilith is another really fun antagonist for them, and they butt heads really nicely too. And then I do like this world a lot too. Like it is definitely very much a more traditional style magic world, but it definitely has like enough of its own unique characteristics and flair to it that it does separate itself from like Little Witch Academia and Harry Potter. Just kind of more in the visual aesthetics and how the magic works. Like the way that they Lutz finds out how to use magic on her own, I think is actually a really, really cool take on it. There's definitely one inspiration that I won't say now. I kind of don't want to say it just because I could give a little bit too much away, but it sort of does borrow from one really, really popular anime. When you get to the point where she learns how to use magic, you should know which one I'm talking about. But yeah, no, I thought that was just like a really nice creative thing. And overall, I'm just really happy to see that, we are getting these episodic style shows that are able to have a lot of really nice character development. Like, kind of reminds me a lot of, I would say like the old DC animated ones, like Teen Titans and like Justice League. It's sort of like that, I would say. Just a very nice Saturday night cartoon, good development, good action, good characters, good animation, good music. And really, like, the main complaint that I have about it is King's development kind of being squashed because he's like he forgot his lessons he learned in previous episodes, and really just one side character being relatively weak overall. But outside of that, yeah, no, I don't really have a reason not to recommend this show to you guys. Just overall, good children's media. Go out there and support it. I'm not sure exactly what it's streaming on. It's like it is a Disney show. I don't know if it's on Disney Plus yet. I haven't really looked there. But I think there was like something else that it's on to. I'd have to go back and check to see what it is. I think it's also available through like a lot of TV apps. Like I know Spectrum has their own TV app. You can watch it through Disney on there. Not exactly sure how that works. But anyways, I guess the last thing we should talk about is the Owl House itself. There's a character by the name of Hootie, and everybody ignores him, and he's really annoying, but like in a very endearing way that's absolutely hilarious. And that's kind of the reason why I didn't talk about Hootie until just now, and you'll kind of understand why when you watch it. Hootie is eternal, and that will make sense the more that you watch it. So, with all that being said, I would give this show overall a 7 out of 10. It is a very, very good starting point. I don't think it's anything that like sticks out to be anything super spectacular and amazing, but it's a very, very solid experience from start to end. And they've only set themselves up to only grow from here, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing that. And I'm very much forward looking to see what the overall antagonist plan is going to be for the second season. It feels like they're setting up for a lot of things, and it has all the grounds to be something very interesting. So with that said, what were your guys' thoughts on the show? Did you watch it? Did you not watch it? Did this video make you interested in watching it? Let me know in the comments below. If you did watch it, what were your thoughts on it? Did you like it? Did you hate it? What things did you agree with? What didn't you agree with? And what would you like to see going forward in it? I would say if you are going to talk spoilers, you might want to leave a little tag for that. Oh, excuse me. I might want to leave a little tag for that in your comment, just in case if anybody hasn't watched the show and they're going through this, they won't be spoiled by going through all that stuff. Personally, for me, as I mentioned, that one sports episode I think is my favorite one out of everything in the show. And then I think the Conjuring episode where they make the house move. Those are probably my two favorite ones. So let me know what your favorite episodes were. Let me know what shows you would like me to talk about in the future, as some of your suggestions might actually just point me in that direction if they happen to be on my list. If they're not, it might be just something I didn't know about until I read that comment. So please let me know down in the comments below what you'd like to see from me. And until then, take care of yourselves until the next one.